Hi guys, hope you enjoyed Miss Radcliffe reading chapter 1 of When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit yesterday. Today it's my turn to read you chapter 2. Apologise in advance if there's any hiccups, but we're going to go with it. Okay, chapter 2. Anna's first thought was so terrible that she could not breathe. Papa had got worse in the night. He had been taken to hospital. Perhaps he... She ran blindly out of the room and found herself caught by Heimpy. It's all right. Your father has gone on a journey. A journey? Anna could not believe it. But he's ill. He had a temperature. He decided to go all the same, said Heimpy firmly. Your mother was going to explain it to you all when you came home from school. Now, I suppose you'll have to hear it straight away, and Fraulein Schmidt will be kept twiddling her thumbs for you. What is it? Are we going to miss school? Max appeared hopefully on the landing. Then Mamma came out of her room. She was still in her dressing gown and looked tired. There's no need to get terribly excited, she said, but there are some things that I must tell you. Heimpy, shall we have some coffee? And I expect the children could eat some more breakfast. Once they were settled in Heimpy's pantry with coffee and rolls, Anna felt much better, and was even able to calculate that she would miss the geography lesson at school, which she particularly disliked. It's quite simple, said Mamma. Papa thinks Hitler and the Nazis might win the elections. If that happened, he would not want to live in Germany while they were in power, and nor would any of us. Because we're Jews? Asked Anna. Not only because we're Jews. Papa thinks no one will be allowed to say what they thought anymore, and he wouldn't be able to write. The Nazis don't like people who disagree with them. Mamma drank some of her coffee and looked more cheerful. Of course, it may never happen, and if it did, it probably wouldn't last long, maybe 6 months or so. But at the moment, we just don't know. But Papa did leave. But why did Papa leave so suddenly? Asked Max. Because yesterday someone rang him up and warned him that they might be going to take away his passport. So I packed him a small suitcase and he caught the first train to Prague. That's the quickest way out of Germany. Who could take away his passport? The police. There are quite a few Nazis in the police. And who rang him up to warn him? Mamma smiled for the first time. Another policeman. One Papa had never met but who reads his books and liked them. It took Anna and Max some time to digest all this. Then Max asked, But what's going to happen now? Well, said Mamma, it's only about 10 days until the elections. Either the Nazis lose, in which case Papa comes back, or they win, in which case we join him. In Prague? Asked Max. No, probably in Switzerland. They speak German there. Papa would be able to write. We'd probably rent a little house and stay there until all this has blown over. Heimpy too? Asked Anna. Heimpy too. It sounded quite exciting. Anna was beginning to imagine it. A house in the mountains, goats, or was it cows? When Mamma said, there is one thing more. Her voice was very serious. This is the most important thing of all, said Mamma, and we need you to help us with it. Papa does not want anyone to know that he has left Germany, so you must not tell anyone. If anyone asks you about him, you must say he is still in bed with the flu. Can't I even tell Gunther? Asked Max. No, not Gunther, or Elsbeth, not anyone. All right, said Max. But it won't be easy. People are always asking after him. Why can't we tell anyone? Asked Anna. Why doesn't Papa want anyone to know? Look, said Mamma, I've explained it all to you as well as I can. But you're still young children. You can't understand everything. Papa thinks the Nazis might cause us some bother if they knew he'd gone. So he does not want you to talk about it. Now, are you going to do what he has asked or not? Anna said yes, of course she would. Then Heimpy bundled them off, both to school. Anna was worried about what to say if anyone asked why she was late. But Max said, I'll just tell Mamma overslept. She did anyway. In fact, no one was very interested. They did high jump in gym, and Anna jumped higher than anybody else in her class. She was so pleased about this that the rest of the morning she almost forgot about Papa being in Prague. When it was time to go home, it all came back to her, and she hoped Elsbeth would not ask her any awkward questions. But Elsbeth's mind was on more important matters. Her aunt was coming to take her out for the afternoon to buy her a yo-yo. What kind did Anna think she would choose, and what colour? The wooden ones worked best on the whole, but Elsbeth had seen a bright orange one, which, though made of tin, had her impressed with its beauty, and she was very tempted. Anna only had to say yes or no, and by the time she got home for lunch the day felt more ordinary than she thought it would ever be possible that morning. Neither Anna nor Max had any homework, and it was too cold to go out, so in the afternoon they sat by the radiator in the nursery and looked out the window. The wind was rattling the shutters and blowing great lumps of cloud across the sky. "We might get more snow," said Max. Max, said Anna, "do you hope that we go to Switzerland?" "I don't know," said Max. "There are so many things that he would miss. Gunther, his gang with whom he played football, school." He said, "I suppose we go to school in Switzerland." "Oh yes," said Anna, "I think it would be quite fun." She was almost ashamed to admit it, but the more she thought about it, the more she wanted to go. To be in a strange country where everything would be different, to live in a different house, go to a different school with different children. A huge urge to experience it all overcame her, and though she knew it was heartless, a smile appeared on her face. "It would only be for 6 months," she said apologetically, "and we'd all be together." The next few months passed fairly normally. Mama got a letter from Papa. He was comfortably installed in a hotel in Prague and feeling much better. This cheered everyone up. A few people inquired after him, but were quite satisfied when the children said he had the flu. There was so much of it going about it wasn't surprising. The weather continued very cold, and the puddles caused by the thaw all froze over again. But still no snow. At last, on the afternoon of the Sunday before the elections, the sky turned very dark and then suddenly opened up to release a mass of floating, drifting, whirling white. Anna and Max were playing with the Kentner children, who lived across the road. They stopped to watch the snow come down. "If only it had started a bit earlier," said Max. "By the time it's thick enough for tobogganing, it will go dark." At 5 o'clock, when Anna and Max were going home, it had only just stopped. Peter and Marianne Kentner saw them at the door. The snow lay thick and dry and crunchy all over the road, and the moon was shining down on it. "Why don't we go tobogganing in the moonlight?" said Peter. "Do you think they'd let us?" "We've done it before," said Peter, who was 14. "Go and ask your mother." Mama said that they could go provided that they all stayed together and got home by 7. They put on their warmest clothes and set off. It was only a quarter of an hour's walk to the Grunwald, where the wooden slope made an ideal run down to the frozen lake. They had tobogganed there many times before, but it was always been in the daylight, and the air had been loud with the shouts of other children. Now all they could hear was the soughing of the wind in the trees, the crunching of the new snow under their feet, and the gentle whir of the sledges as they slid along behind them. Above their heads the sky was dark and the ground shone blue in the moonlight, and the shadows of the trees broke like black bands across it. At the top of the slope they stopped and looked down. Nobody had been on it before them. The shimmering path of snow stretched ahead, perfect and unmarked, right down to the edge of the lake. "Who's going down first?" asked Max. Anna did not mean to, but she found herself hopping up and down and saying, "Oh, please, please, please." Peter said, "All right, youngest first." That meant her because Marianne was 10. She sat on her sledge, held onto the steering rope, took a deep breath, and pushed off. The sledge began to move rather gently down the hill. "Go on!" shouted the boys behind her. "Give it another push." But she didn't. She kept her feet on the runners and let the sledge gather speed slowly. The powdery snow sprayed up all around her, and the sledge struck it. The trees moved past slowly at first, then faster and faster. The moonlight leapt all around her. At last she seemed to be flying through the mass of silver. Then the sledge hit the hump at the bottom of the slope, shot across it, and landed in the dapple of the moonlight on the frozen lake. It was beautiful. The others came down after her, squealing and shouting. They went down the slope head first on their stomachs, so that the snow sprayed straight into their faces. They went down feet first on their backs, with the black tops of the fir trees rushing fast above them. They all squeezed onto one sledge together and came down so fast that they shot onto almost the middle of the lake. After each ride, they struggled back up the slope, panting and pulling the sledges behind them. In spite of the cold, they were steaming inside their woolies. Then it began to snow again. At first they hardly noticed it, but when the wind got up and it blew the snow onto their faces, all at once Max stopped in the middle of dragging his sledge up the slope and said, "What time is it? Oughtn't we be getting back now?" Nobody had a watch on, and they suddenly realised that they had no idea how long they had been there. Perhaps it was quite late and their parents had been waiting for them at home. "Come on," said Peter, "we'd better get going quickly." He took off his gloves and knocked them together to shake the caked snow off them. His hands were red with cold, so were Anna's, and she noticed for the first time that her feet were frozen. It was chilly going back. The wind blew through their damp clothes, and with the moon hidden behind the clouds, the path was black in front of them. Anna was glad when they were out of the trees and in the road. Soon there were street lamps, houses with lighted windows, shops. They were nearly home. The illuminated clock face showed them the time. After all, it was not quite 7. They heaved sighs of relief and walked even more slowly. Max and Peter began to talk about football. Marianne tied 2 sledges together and scampered wildly ahead on the empty road, leaving a network of overlapping tracks in the snow. Anna lagged behind because her feet were so cold they hurt. She could see the boys stop outside her house, still talking and waiting for her, and she was just going to catch them up when she heard the creak of the gate. Something moved in the path beside her, and suddenly a shapeless figure loomed up. For a moment she was very frightened, and then she saw that it was only Fraulein Lambeck, who, in some sort of fairy cloak, with a letter in her hand. "Ah, little Anna!" cried Fraulein Lambeck. "Fancy meeting you in the dark of the night! I was just going to the post box, but I did not think to find a kindred spirit. And how is your dear papa?" He's got the flu," said Anna automatically. Fraulein Lambeck stopped her in her tracks. "Still got the flu, little Anna? You told me he had the flu a week ago." "Yes," said Anna. "And he's still in bed? Still got a temperature?" "Yes," said Anna. "Oh, the poor man." Fraulein Lambeck put her hand on Anna's shoulder. "Are they going to do anything for him? Does the doctor come to see him?" "Yes," said Anna. "And what does the doctor say?" "He says—" "I don't know," said Anna. Fraulein Lambeck leaned down confidently and peered into her face. "Tell me, little Anna," she said, "how high is your dear papa's temperature?" "I don't know," cried Anna, and her voice came out not at all as she had meant, but in some sort of a squeak. "I'm sorry, I just must go now," and she ran as fast as she could towards Max and the open door. "What is the matter with you?" said Heimpie in the hall. "Someone shoot you out of a cannon?" Anna could see Mamma through the half-open door in the drawing room. "Mamma," she cried, "I hate lying to everyone about Papa. It's horrible. Why do we have to do it? I wish we didn't have to." Then she saw that Mamma was not alone. Uncle Julius, who was not really an uncle, but an old friend of Papa's, was sitting in the armchair on the other side of the room. "Calm yourself," said Mamma quite sharply. "We all hate lying about Papa, but it is just very necessary." I wouldn't ask you to do it if it wasn't necessary." "She got caught by Fraulein Lambeck," said Max, who followed Anna in. "You know, Fraulein Lambeck, she's ghastly. You can't answer her questions even when you're allowed to tell the truth." "Poor Anna," said Uncle Julius in his high voice. He was a gentle, wispy man, and they were all very fond of him. "Your father asked me to tell you that he misses you both very much and sends you lots of love." "Have you seen him then?" said Anna. "Uncle Julius has just come back from Prague," said Mamma. "Papa is fine, and he wants us to meet him in Zurich in Switzerland on Sunday." "Sunday?" said Max. "But that's only a week. That's the day of the elections. I thought we were going to wait to see who won first." "Your father has decided he'd rather not wait." Uncle Julius smiled at Mamma. I do think he's taking all this too seriously." "Why?" asked Max. "What's he worried about?" Mamma sighed. "Ever since Papa heard of the move to take away his passport, he's been worried that they might try and take away ours. Then we wouldn't be able to leave Germany." "And why should they?" asked Max. "If the Nazis don't like us, surely they'd be glad to get rid of us." "Exactly," said Uncle Julius. He smiled at Mamma again. "Your husband is a wonderful man with a wonderful imagination. But frankly, in this matter, he's off his head. Never mind. You'll all have a lovely holiday in Switzerland, and when you come back to Berlin in a few weeks' time, we'll go to the zoo together." Uncle Julius was a naturalist and went to the zoo all the time. "Let me know if I can help you with any of the arrangements. I'll see you again, of course." He kissed Mamma's hand and went. "Are we really leaving on Sunday?" asked Anna. "Saturday," said Mamma. "It's a long way to Switzerland. We have to spend the night in the Stuttgart on the way." "Then this is our last week of school," said Max. It seemed incredible. Hope you liked it, chapter 2, and I think it's going to be Miss Saunderson who's reading you chapter 3 tomorrow. Have a lovely day, guys.